Hey guys, and welcome to a brand new video here on HD Pocket. Today we're going to be breaking down the top 10 current meta decks in Pokemon TCG Pocket. This information has been taken from over 15,000 decks from over 5,000 players, so you know that they're pretty good. Let's break them down and take a look at them. So, starting things off, I just want to quickly say that I don't actually have all the cards for all of these 10 different decks. My pack look isn't the best, but do not fret. The actual deck build will be on the screen at all times as we're talking through the deck regardless. So, we're going to take a look at the 10th deck and then go all the way through to the #1 deck in the current tournament meta for Pokemon TCG Pocket. So, the first one is this Greninja deck. So, this runs 2 Froakie, 2 Frogadier, 2 Greninja, 1 Mew, 2 Druddigon, and a Tauros for your kind of Pokemon. The whole point of this deck is obviously to just do chip damage with Greninja. Obviously, Mew is in there for the pesky Mewtwo's. Druddigon's there for your wall. You've got Tauros there that can come in and do some heavy damage to different EX Pokemon. Again, it's not the greatest deck, but that's why it's in the number 10 spot. For your items and your trainer cards, you're just running an X Speed, 2 Pokeballs, 2 Professor Researchers, 2 Giovannis, a Sabrina, and 2 Leafs. Now again, with the sort of trainers and items, it's very much up to you. You can maybe run like 2 Sabrinas and 1 Leaf or something like that. It is completely your call on that. There's no right way to do it really, but with the Pokemon, that's kind of been put in there because they have the best possible results. So I would always run, like I say, 2 Froakie, 2 Frogadier, 2 Greninja, etc. And yeah, like I say, the point of the deck, do chip damage with Greninja on your bench and stuff, and then obviously you can come in, finish it off with a Mist Slash, or obviously just come in with Tauros and just deal some heavy damage to the EX Pokemon. And then, like I say, Mew is in there for the Mewtwo. So that is the 10th current top deck in the meta as of right now. Going into the number 9 spot, though, we do have the Arcanine Deck. So this runs 2 Growlithe, 2 Arcanine EXs, 2 Moltres EXs, and a Mew EX. Again, Mew is in there for Mewtwo. It's also a really good wall as well, with obviously 130 HP. You could always use the Expeditioner as well to kind of recall the Mew, but sometimes that will make you brick and stuff, and it's just not really worth it. But obviously the point of this deck, get Moltres out as quick as possible, use its Inferno Dance to kind of boost up your Arcanine, and then just come in and deal like heavy damage to everything that's kind of like in your way, because obviously it does a bit of damage, you know. 120 is very nice. Obviously you do take that 20 damage recoil, but you can get this thing set up in like one go with Inferno Dance if you do hit all of the heads. So that's obviously very, very useful. You do have a couple of potions to kind of counteract that 20 residual damage that you're taking from Arcanine's attack. I also run 2 X Speeds, 2 Pokeballs, a red card in this, 2 Professor Researchers, 2 Giovannis, a Sabrina, and a Leaf. Again, completely your call. A lot of people don't like red card. For me, it seemingly always goes in my opponent's favor whenever I use it, so you could always replace that for like another Leaf or another Sabrina. But if you do like red card and you know you do see your opponent with like 5 or 6 cards in their hand and you want to get rid of that and just make them have a hand of 3 cards, then obviously it can be beneficial at times as well. But at the same time, they can have 6 cards and have nothing that they need, and then you go and red card them, and then yeah, they only get 3 cards, but it turns out that those are the 3 cards they need. So it is one of those. Red cards are very, very hit and miss. I don't like using them, but it is in this current Arcanine build. So that's the Arcanine deck. Moving on into the number 8 spot, we do have this sort of fighting type deck. It's very much a you hit me, I hit you harder deck. We run the Mew, obviously, because of the Mewtwo, stuff like that. It's a very nice wall. Hitmonlee can obviously do 30 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Very, very useful for Magikarp. If you can bring your Hitmonlee like turn 1 and they're setting up the Magikarp on the bench, takes 1 energy, you can knock it out with 1 hit. Very, very useful. Very similar to Zebstrika as well, which is why that's seen a lot of play in the meta right now as well. Marshadow is your main sort of damaging Pokemon, though. When you get a Pokemon knocked out, you can use Revenge, and if your Pokemon was knocked out last turn, this does an extra 60 damage, so you can be hitting for 100 there, which is very, very beneficial. Obviously, one-shots Pikachu, stuff like that. Pikachu is seen quite a lot in the meta, so it is a very beneficial deck. You're also running a couple of Farfetch'd as well, which, you know, 40 damage with 1 energy is very, very nice. Tauros is in there as well for doing heavy damage to the sort of EX Pokemon and stuff like that. And that's the majority of the Pokemon there. For the items and stuff, you run 1 potion, 2 X Speeds, 2 Pokeballs, and then for the trainers, you run 2 Professor Researchers, 2 Giovannis, 2 Sabrinas, and a Leaf. But again, your call whether you want to run like maybe, I don't know, 2 Leafs and 1 Giovanni or whatever. Giovanni is very, very useful though, especially with, you know, Pokemon like Tauros, where you're going to be doing like 120 damage, 130 will obviously knock out Pokemon like Mew and stuff like that. So that's why Giovanni is seen quite a lot in this deck. It's very, very good to kind of combine with the Tauros there. But anyway, that is the 8th best deck in the current meta. Moving on to the 7th spot, though, we do have the new Golem deck, which is seeing a lot of play. This is very, very useful for a lot of the Pokemon in the current meta. You know, you can survive like Gyarados and stuff with its attack, and then obviously do a lot more damage and stuff. It's very, very useful. We run 2 Geodude, 1 Hitmonlee, 2 Graveler, 2 Golem, a Marshadow, and 2 Dridagon. So Dridagon's there just to be the wall, you know, take all the damage, give out all the damage as well, 20 every single time you get hit. And then obviously as that's on the in your active spot, taking all that hits, you can obviously be building up your Golem on the bench, because you want to build this up as quick as possible so you can start dealing heavy damage. Remember, you do 120 and then you also minus the 30 as well. So like I say, it survives a Gyarados, which does like 140 or something like that. It does a lot less damage with the guard press. So that's the main hitter in this deck. Obviously Marshadow's in there to do that 100 damage. If you do get Dridagon knocked out, you can come in with Marshadow, deal 100 damage. Very, very useful. And then Hitmonlee's there to snipe the Magikarps on the bench. Very, very useful card, as we've already spoken about. And then in terms of items and trainer cards, you've got Potion, 2 Pokeballs, 2 Professor Researchers, 1 Giovanni, 2 Leaves, and then 2 Brocks as well. Brocks clearly useful because of that being able to add an extra fighting energy onto Golem or Onix. You can kind of deal that big damage a turn earlier, and it's very, very useful. So I do like this deck. A lot of people also run sort of Dugtrio instead of Dridagon, just simply because you can, it is more RNG based because you can be dealing 40 damage every turn with 1 energy, but then also if you hit heads you take no damage. So there's kind of like good and bad things about both variations. But anyway, that's the 7th best deck in the current meta. Moving on to the 6th best deck. I unfortunately don't have all the cards for this, but it is the Charizard EX deck. So you're running 2 Charmanders, 1 Growlithe, 2 Charmeleons, 2 Arcanine EXs, 2 Moltres EXs, and then 2 Charizard EXs as well. So with this deck, it is quite easy to brick, because obviously you could maybe start with like 1 Growlithe, 2 Charmeleons, and then like a Charizard or something like that in your opening hand, which is obviously not very good. I don't really like running this many Pokemon, just simply because, as I say, you do have a high chance of bricking, but at the same time, if you can get this going, it just does crazy damage. You want to see Moltres at the start, being able to use Inferno Dance to power up either your Arcanine or your Charizard on the bench. But yeah, it is a decent deck. It is like I say, it's the 6th best one, the best one in the current meta, and it's that for a reason. It does heavy damage, very easy to set up, but like I say, you could brick a lot of the times. But there are all the Pokemon. And then in terms of items and trainer cards, you're running 2 Potions, 2 Pokeballs, 2 Professor Researchers, 1 Sabrina, and then 2 Leaves as well. So there's no Giovannis in this deck, but that's just simply because Arcanine and Charizard just deal so much damage already. Like I said, being able to deal 200 damage, nothing can stand that in the current meta. And you discard 2 energy from this Pokemon, which obviously is the down sort of side of it. But still, when you've got Charizard out, it's basically endgame anyway, so you can just be dealing heavy damage regardless. So that's the 6th best deck in the current meta, the Charizard deck. And again, I do apologize that I don't have the card. I've not even got the basic Charizard EX. I got the full art before I've even had the normal Charizard EX. But yeah, like I say, it'll be on the bottom of the screen regardless anyway, if you do want to see all the different deck profiles and stuff like that. Moving on to the 5th best deck in the game, and unfortunately I don't have all the cards for this either, but it is the Aerodactyl EX deck. This is actually seeing a lot of play now. I quite like it. Like I say, I can't run an Aerodactyl EX because I've only got 1, which is a shame. But it does look like a very, very fun deck to use. But anyway, you're running 2 Hitmonlee, 2 Mankey, 2 Primeape, a Marshadow, and then 2 Aerodactyl EXs. Again, Hitmonlee's in there to snipe Magikarps. Mankey and Primape's there just do like decent amount of damage. Again, very, very RNG-ish. Being able to hit 50 is obviously very, very useful. Because that's like 70 on a Pikachu EX, which is crazy amount of damage. But obviously, if you hit Tails, it does nothing. So, very RNG-ish. And then obviously, you've got Primeape coming in with the 50 damage regardless every single turn. Only 1 energy is still very, very useful. But Aerodactyl is your main kind of threat in this deck. Being able to hit 80 every turn, and then also your opponent's active Pokemon cannot evolve. So if they do have Magikarp out in their active spot, they cannot evolve it. So very, very useful. And obviously you just one-shot it. And then Marshadow's in there for the revenge kills as well. If you do lose like your Mankey or something like that, very, very useful there. In terms of items and trainer cards, we're running 2 X Speeds, 2 Pokeballs, 2 Old Ambers, of course, for the Aerodactyls, 2 Professor Researchers, 2 Giovannis, and 1 Sabrina as well. So like I say, very, very fun deck. I can't run it, but again, seeing a lot of play in the current meta, and that is the 5th best deck in the current meta as of right now. Again, it's very opinionated, but at the same time, these are being used by over 15,000 people, and they've been used by 5,000 different, 15,000 decks by 5,000 different people, so you can kind of see why they're doing so well. Anyway, moving on next is everyone's favorite RNG deck, the Celebi deck, which I'm surprised is only at the number 4 spot, because I feel like I see this all the time. But anyway, in this deck, you're running 2 Execute, 1 Snivy, 2 Savine, 2 Executor EXs, 2 Superiors, and 2 Celebi EXs as well. So it's just usually how it has always been. You're trying to evolve your Superior as quick as possible whilst beefing up that Celebi to obviously do ridiculous amounts of damage with heads. Every single time you hit it, it's 50 damage. Executor's out there just to be the sort of wall, you know, 160 HP, 1 energy to be able to do maybe 80 damage every turn is absolutely ridiculous. It's such a good card. I think Executor EX is really, really slept on, and it fits really, really nicely in this deck. You're running 2 Execute because you'd rather see that in your opening hand just so you can wall everything. And then obviously Snivy is in there. Again, you could brick a little bit with only having 1 Snivy, but that's what's in this tournament deck. That's seemingly what is seen the most, so that's why it's in today's video. But like I say, if you get Superior evolved quick as possible, and then Celebi can just come in after Executor gets knocked out, and then you just probably going to be doing a lot of damage every single turn, unless your RNG is terrible, which in this case, you know, it's not great. But if you're hitting like 8 coins, you're probably going to be doing at least 200 damage, you'd like to think. They're all the Pokemon though, and then in terms of items and trainer cards, we're running 2 X Speeds, 2 Pokeballs, 2 Professor Researchers, 2 Ericas, and then a Sabrina as well. And again, Erica is just, it goes so well with Executor, because if you start taking a lot of damage, you can just heal 50 with Erica. It's absolutely busted, and 160 HP is difficult to get rid of. You know, Mewtwo can't even one-shot it, which is insane. By the time it gets to that 150 damaging move, though, you would obviously have been taking quite a bit of damage. But you just heal it with Erica regardless, so it's a really, really broken deck, which is why it's seen so much. I feel like I see this deck more than anything in the current meta, just because it's so easy and so simple to use. Again, very RNG based, but at the same time, it's going to work for you more than it doesn't. But anyway, that's the 4th best deck in the current meta. Moving on to the 3rd best deck, though, is Pikachu EX, which has been a staple of the meta since the game came out back in October. So for this deck, you're running 2 Blitzel, 2 Zebstrika, a Dedenne, 2 Zapdos EX, and then 2 Pikachu EX. So obviously with this deck, what you want to do is just get as many electric Pokemon on your bench as possible to power up that Pikachu EX and then be dealing 90 damage every single turn. Very quick to set up unless you brick, but it doesn't happen that often. Very, very OP deck in my opinion. Zebstrika is in there obviously just to snipe the Magikarp. The other build is of course Electrode and stuff, which saw a lot of play at the start. Zebstrika is seen more now just because of Magikarp and Gyarados and stuff. You have the advantage with this deck over Gyarados regardless because of the type matchup, but at the same time, being able to knock out Magikarp straight off the bat is just very, very useful. So they're all the Pokemon that you run in this deck, and then in terms of items and trainer cards, 2 X Speeds, 2 Pokeballs, 2 Professor Researchers, 1 Giovanni, 2 Sabrinas, 1 Leaf, and 1 Blue as well. So yeah, Blue is just useful obviously to take less damage at the turn. You could get rid of a Leaf or a Giovanni if you really wanted to. All of the Pokemon in this deck only cost 1 retreat cost, so that's why you might see a little bit more play with Giovanni. But at the same time, if you have Pikachu on your bench and you're trying to get it into your active spot for free, it's just another chance of being able to get that with the Leaf instead of you know, the Giovanni. But obviously, if you want to do a little bit more damage, Giovanni over the Leaf there. But again, that's all your own kind of personal preference. So that is the 3rd best deck in the current meta. The 2nd best deck, unfortunately, I can't play it because I don't have 2 Gyaradoses. It is Gyarados EX, and this is a really, really annoying deck to go up against. You can lose to this like turn 1. If they get the Magikarp and Gyarados set up and they get a few heads on Misty, it's just kind of GG's. This is an absolutely ridiculous deck right now. It runs 2 Froakie, 2 Magikarp, 2 Frogadier, 2 Greninja, 2 Gyarados EX, and 2 Druddigon. So you've probably seen this in action a lot. You've probably used it yourself. Druddigon's out there, take all the hits, power up Magikarp on the bench, use Misty and stuff to obviously get all the energy on Gyarados, and then just sweep with Gyarados. 140 damage every single turn. Absolutely ridiculous. 180 HP. This thing is absolutely broken. You also have Greninja as well on your bench just to snipe things and stuff if they are trying to retreat things. Then do not worry, because obviously Greninja can just come in and snipe something with his Water Shuriken. You know, once during your turn, you may do 20 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon, so nothing's safe really from this deck. It's very self-explanatory, like I say, and you can win in the first couple of turns if Misty is in your favor that game. In terms of items and trainer cards, you're running 2 Pokeballs, 2 Professor Researchers, 2 Misties, and 2 Leafs. So yeah, like it's very much exactly what it says on the tin. You just want to get Gyarados powered up as quick as possible, and then you literally one-shot basically everything that's kind of against you. And then, I mean, there's no Giovanni in the deck, but you don't really need it because 140 every turn is just more than enough. And you're doing 160 a turn anyway. If you have Greninja set up on your bench, you're doing that 20 damage with your Water Shuriken, and then Gyarados does 140. So you don't need the Giovanni because you're doing 20 damage regardless. So yeah, absolutely broken deck. I see this a lot in the meta more than anything else, but that's just because it's so easy to use. But the #1 best deck in Pokemon TCG Pocket right now is the Mewtwo deck. It is still the king of decks. It's been around for a long time. It's not going anywhere. It's just gotten more powerful with the Mythical Island expansion, but in this deck, you're running 2 Ralts, 2 Curlier, 2 Gardevoir, 2 Mewtwo EXs, and then a Mew EX as well. Always self-explanatory. You want to get Mew or Mewtwo as quick as possible. In that active spot, get Ralts on the bench, evolve it into Gardevoir, use Gardevoir's ability to Psy Shadow to get an extra energy onto your Mewtwo every single turn. And then you can just be dealing 150 damage every turn with basically no kind of downside to it. You put your energy on at the start of the round, and then obviously you pop the Gardevoir one, and then you just side drive everything, and it is absolutely broken. The thing about this deck is, though, you could easily brick. I always brick. That's why I don't run the Mewtwo deck. Every time I go up against it, it feels like they start off with Mewtwo and Ralts and Curlier and Gardevoir in their hand. I'm not one of those people, but yeah, it is absolutely, if you can get this set up, it absolutely is broken. In terms of items and trainer cards, you're running 2 Pokeballs, 2 Mythical Slabs, 2 Professor Researchers, 1 Giovanni, 1 Sabrina, 2 Leafs, and 1 Blue as well. You could run the Expeditioner as well, because the good sort of play with Mew is if you have Mew in at the start and then you're taking kind of hits and stuff, and you've got like 40 HP left, you can use your Expeditioner to kind of recall your Mew for free and then put it back on your bench, and you don't lose any points, and your Mew gets healed as well. So maybe that's a better card to run instead of like Blue or something, because it does get you out of jail, and it just gives you an extra couple of turns as well to kind of set your Mewtwo up, or maybe try and find that Gardevoir if that's the last card you're kind of looking for. So if you wanted to run that, I also could see a lot of benefits to that as well. But anyway, this is the #1 top deck in Pokemon TCG Pocket right now. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, I don't mind doing this like every couple of weeks. The meta is changing all the time. People develop new decks that see a lot of play and do really, really well. There's tournaments all the time, and these are the decks that are used in those tournaments. Like I say, these are top 10 taken from that tournament website. So if you enjoyed the video, drop a like down below. What is your favorite deck to use in Pokemon TCG Pocket right now? Thank you for watching though. Subscribe if you're brand new. Ring the notification bell. It's everything from me. Have a great rest of your day. And until next time, peace.